So we started this practice probably midsummer, where we wanted to spend some time during our intergenerational lunches, providing an update on the things at Third Space and it's in the Third Space collaborative universe, the things that we're working on. And so you may remember a couple months ago we came and we shared some updates on the initial designs on the Lakefront, the Northcoast Lakefront Masterplan. These are like the 30% version. So our friend, Director Wong, came back to the space with her colleague Dan Shinko, right, Dan Shinko, or Shink for short, to give us a brief update on the 60% version of those designs. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Director Wong and Dan Shinko.
Give it up for the first of all, it's good to be back. If I sound a little funny, it's because I got some tooth work done today, and I got a little numbing agent, so I've got my fragile teeth, trying to heal my fragile teeth. But I do want to introduce you all to Dan Schinkel, who comes to us. He grew up in the Lomond neighborhood, Shaker Square area, but moved to Milwaukee. So he worked for Milwaukee Recreation, building these beautiful playgrounds. And he just moved back a month ago.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Dan. So I'm throwing him right into the lakefront work, so he's going to help us out today with the update. So my name is Joyce Huang. I'm the planning director with the City of Cleveland, and we have the huge pleasure of working with Third Space on many projects, including the Northcoast Lakefront. And as Mordecai mentioned, we're here to give the 60% update, right? So what that means is we came to you with a first draft a few months ago. This is the second draft, and then there's going to be a third draft in December, and then a final in January. So we're kind of in the middle right now. We took a lot of feedback, heard your concerns and also interests, and there's been some significant updates since then. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in because I know we're short on time. There is a part where Third Space was involved, and Mordecai, if you want to say anything about that portion, feel free to jump in because I think it's significant. But Mayor Bibb, his vision for healing on the lakefront and making sure that it is an equitable, accessible, resilient place. Just to remind you, there are two parts to this plan. There is the how we'll get there portion on the left, which is about the infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, and then there's the what we'll do there, which is the planning, the master plan, and the park and everything. So this is the schedule that I talked about. At the end of 2023, in December, we'll come back with a final draft, and then in January, we'll present that final to the Planning Commission to see what they think, and they'll vote on it and see if they like it. Once we vote on that, and everybody agrees that it's a good plan, we'll move forward to do our fundraising. So what we've heard, since the last time we came to you, we have been out at any and every festival we could find. We've been out at Dave's Markets. I'll be at Shaker Square Dave's tomorrow. I'll be at Trunk or Treat tonight. And next week we'll be out at Markets as well. So we've gotten over 4,000 comments so far. We want to keep building that number. Right now, we're kind of in a phase where we're trying to confirm. So, second draft, we want to make sure we're headed in the right direction as we finalize our final draft. So here's some pictures from those outreaches and kind of here, there, and everywhere. What we heard, continue to hear that lakeside dining is really popular. Everyone wants to eat the lake festivals and arts and culture festivals and Sandy Beach. A lot of the vision continues to come through. So the vision on the left over here, people wanting to experience nature, have that water access and community spaces. But further than that, values is what we hope will carry throughout the rest of the planning process through design and construction. And these values include having an inclusive and welcoming community, economic development and sustainability, access to nature and outdoor spaces, public access and recreation, and then history and art. And we'll talk a little bit at the end of your question and answer about why this might matter. So These are just some pictures we asked you all about last time. Third Space hosted a series of salons. So if the survey is something that's kind of a wide touch, trying to reach as many people as possible with a short survey, we believe that Third Space, through their salon series, was the deep touch. And so there are a lot of really deep conversations about what does the lakefront really mean to us. Morgan, did you want to comment briefly on kind of?
Yeah, I'll do it as briefly as I can. I wanted to emphasize what Director Wong was just saying about the need and the opportunity for us to go a bit deeper. We were exploring some of the kind of the larger unifying themes that are behind why this project is important now, or what some of the things that this project is seeking to do that perhaps other projects haven't done so as explicitly. So we had 3 salons, which are really about centering the conversation or building community through conversation, kind of like what we do together in this space. And so we wanted to not just share that this plan is interested in exploring the whole history of the lakefront, but we really wanted to interrogate that. We wanted to unpack it and understand, what does that really mean? How do we honor a history or a historical relationship to the water that goes beyond, that extends further in history than even the city of Cleveland itself? How do we understand how different cultures have developed relationships with the lakefront and with water and with these spaces that are going to be transformed yet again? If you go to the next slide. The front porch. Some of y'all may remember from the last time that we had Director Wong and the team from Field Ops here to talk about some of the emerging plans. There's this really cool part of this master plan where they developed multiple porch-like structures that will find its way to this master plan footprint. And so in this salon, we were talking not just about which of these typologies do we prefer, but really what is unique about a porch itself? It's a place where you can be private in public. It is a place of refuge. It's a place that allows for you to see what's happening on the street. But it's also how you know that a community is connected. It's there's activities that are happening. There's a relationship between porches. But if we were to extrapolate that further, what would it look like for the entire downtown lakefront connection footprint? That part of downtown to feel like being on your grandma's front porch or being connected in public to people that you don't necessarily know that well, and you might get to know if you try. The last session was about exploring this idea of what would it look like for us to design a lakefront that is truly for everyone. What would it look like? What would it feel like? What are some of the barriers that tell us, that signal to us that this place is not actually a place where we belong? How do we identify those things and work intentionally to design for it? Design to, overcome that barrier. So as you can see, these topics are not easily contained within any discrete conversation. So a lot of the themes actually overlapped quite a bit. But what we were hoping to do is just pose the biggest questions that we could conceive of together and then share it with our design comrades to help us interpret it. So what they're about to go into next is thank you. That's just a brief recap and summary of some of the things that we talked about. Totally happy to share if you're interested. And I gotta give a shout out to Adriana. Who's hiding in the back. I would put you on the spot, but next time I got you. You're not gonna hide forever. So we'll share these major implications in the full summary with you if you're interested. But back over to y'all.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dan. I think we've seen some of these photos before. These are pictures of the whole history and design principles, front porch. But we want to show you the new pictures because that's the update. And Dan is going to actually walk us through quickly. So while I turn this over to him, this is what it looks like right now. Beautiful, lovely parking lot. This is not our plan. So we're going to go to the next slide, and I'll do this one too, just because this was the last thing you saw. This is hopefully familiar to you. This was the initial sketch, the 30% first draft. And since then, there have been a few key changes that I want to touch on. So if you go to the next slide, this is the more rendered version. And what we changed here was people got really worried about our sandy beach because folks are worried about swimming into the lake when there's ships coming. It's a federal shipping channel. We didn't want this land to slide into the lake. And we just wanted to make sure it was like a safe but also ecological lakefront. So we changed the edge right up here, the beach area, which we'll zoom in on later. The other thing that we have highlighted is if we were to take the shoreway, which is the highway condition right now, we learned that the traffic counts is about the same traffic counts as like Carnegie or Chester Avenues, if you're familiar with those. So it doesn't really need that much heavy infrastructure, the big highway ramps, the very fast cars. We believe it could do well as a local road. And that way you can have a little better experience crossing over from the downtown area or the neighborhoods into the lakefront. And then the other thing is that we developed the development footprint just a little bit more. So it's still 75% park and 25% development. And that's purposeful because we heard that we want it to make it publicly accessible and feel like it's for the public. So we kept it at majority public park, but we just made the buildings a little taller. So the footprint of the buildings is the same. There's not more buildings, but they're just a little bit taller. So, all right, Dan, I'll turn it over to you. This one's a little complicated. Maybe we can go through the pictures because of time.
Sure, and obviously, like how we get there, right, is that land bridge. So that's kind of that big arcing form that you see there. And I also wanted to just highlight that, everybody sees a lot of green here, but a lot of people would still drive to this location. So that land bridge actually gives you a potential to park in a deck structure underneath that bridge. So that question comes up a lot, so I just wanted to highlight that. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the, a lot of these kind of images before in terms of like, hey, nature play is coming downtown, a splash pad, things like that, sport courts, sun decks. So I'm kind of breeze through these kind of overall plans just to get over to a couple views that I think are kind of exciting. In this case, that nature play is really close to the Great Lakes Science Center there. So, a lot of kids are coming to that facility, can pop out that door and immediately start playing and experiencing that lakefront in a new way. And then, I don't know if anybody was able to join us on some of the boat tours, but this is a rare chance to look back at the city from the lake. And you can see just how green that space could be and how inviting it could be. And just kind of a zoom in on where that land bridge lands there. But we're also looking at how can this be an all seasons place to be. So, we are planning for programming all winter long as well, and we'll kind of get into that as we go along. So here's a view looking kind of more from where you would come from the malls across that land bridge. Just want to highlight too that there's a large transit hub that we're looking at right next to the tracks here, where you could have kind of unified trains and buses and things like that. So, just increasing the ability of access to this location. Again, some of those views in wintertime. This is just how you kind of ramp down to the Great Lakes Science Center from the land bridge. This is looking back towards, towards downtown. And you can see as that land bridge kind of starts to finally land back at, kind of street level, opportunities for stages and seating and, kind of a just communal space like that. Looking over the land bridge at that nature playground, what that could look like, an exciting facility for, everybody to come with their kids and have a lot of fun. Another view of that, and making sure that we have a lot of green space and using that green space as buffers between varieties of uses. Again, we'll see how many kids are out there in the snow, but we do have a sledding hill on the other side, so we'll get to that. But then those monumental stairs, give you that perfect view of the sunset over the lake, and we think that's going to be a really exciting point. I'm sure everybody, when you get to that lake and you hear the wind and the waves splashing and things like that, seeing that sunset, that's part of that idea that Mayor Bibb is talking about of a healing space, right? So a place to just come down and experience the lake in a way that most Clevelanders really don't have many options for. And I did want to mention that this area is large enough to have a regulation ice rink. So in the winter months, again, programming as well. This is the sun deck portion too. So if folks just want to be in the sun and hang out for a while, really wonderful space to do that and be in shade if needed.
We also talked with boaters, so the Intercity Yacht Club, which is a boating community on the 72nd Pier area, actually gave us some feedback and said, hey, we want to see what's going on from the water, and we are going to provide some boat tie-ups on the side, so if boaters want to come in and sort of relax, hang out, and then go into their next space, that's available.
And then this is that beach that we were talking about, and there is quite a drop off from that pier into the channel. It is a shipping channel, so it's dredged out, meaning it's deepened. So not necessarily that safe for swimmers, but what we're doing here is kind of backing that up a little bit and allowing a separated water space for the kids in the community to get into that's separated from that channel. You can kind of see on the far left where that kind of rocky edge is kind of where that drop off would be. So you're protected from going really deep really quickly, just from a safety perspective.
I also want to mention this is kind of an ecological aspect, because how many of you have driven on I-90 when it's real windy or stormy out, and the water, you see the water go so the water hits that wall and it goes up in the air and it goes on I-90 and it freezes the road. Right. So that's a problem, because that hard edge, that's a man-made hard edge, and that's when the wave hits it and goes up. It's not a natural edge. And so what we're trying to do here is recreate more natural edges on our lakefront, because that's how nature was, right? And so if there's storms or water coming up, it'll be able to come up on the rocks instead of hitting a real hard wall and coming up over. So we're trying to be resilient and kind of work with nature and make sure that we're clicking with nature there. So there is going to be a wetland area, which is of course kind of a natural element to Lake Erie, but it will be separated so people won't be kind of going into the wetland. But you can do dip your feet in the water, put your legs in the water. If you're a kid, you probably get waist high into the water, just so people can actually be in the water and be connected that way.
Right, and that main reason is just because of that drop off in elevation off the edge of that pier. But we heard, hey, we want a beach, a sand beach in particular. Here's a way that we can engineer that. So we hope that this is just a really fun experience, and obviously having that wetland there, getting a little more nature. I mean, how often do you get a lot of natural kind of sounds and sights and things like that downtown? So this is a great opportunity. A close-up view of that. Hopefully we do get some wildlife, some birds and things like that in this space. But then going back to that porches idea, we're really excited about this. It's an opportunity to kind of show off the artsy side that Cleveland, brings to bear so often through community design. But, all these porches are designed essentially to be unique experiences, different unto themselves, and, kind of tell different stories. So, exciting time to work with artists or designers to design something really quite unique and beautiful. And here's what that could look like in the future. And then again, all seasons, right? So can there be fire pits and things to draw folks out here at times of year that, generally would never come down here, especially to a parking lot. Fishing pier here as well. Definitely some folks in town that have been interested in fishing and all that, and just a fun kind of like end point to your excursion through here. And then that hill on the right would be your sledding hill. So come winter time, we hope kids will be active all over that facility as well. We
So,
good with that?
yeah, we're good. Let me mention something really quick too, that how many of you all have memories with your families fishing on Lake Erie? I felt like that was real popular. Some people do. So this is another opportunity to kind of recreate some of those new memories with your families moving forward. So a little bit about economic development, because people are always curious about what that's gonna look like. So again, the majority of this is, intended to be that 75% public space, and then there are going to be some residential, kind of highlighted here in the pink. And that's phase one. That's like, okay, we gotta work on the lakefront, make sure it's active, get the buildings up and the park up, and the land bridge done. But if that's successful, we think that there could be future phases for kind of creating more of an urban environment downtown. So the phase two is in this light blue, so maybe we can look at this other parking lot over here, another parking lot over here, blank spaces here. And then just generally speaking, this is the Muni lots. How many of y'all have memories in the Muni lot? I do not personally have memories in the Muni lot, but maybe I'll try to go out to a Brownscape this. The Muni lot is rather large. We do believe that we have, some opportunity for a footprint 30 years from now if this is successful. So the Muni lots will remain until there's, some more activity here. But if you're looking at the road, there's going to be a few stops, just 4 stops along the way. And we believe that it's helpful to have a little bit of buildings there just to help slow down the traffic so you're not zooming down like it's Opportunity Corridor or the West Side Shoreway. Okay, so that's what it looks like. This is the garden walk, so this is what it could look like walking out on the lakefront between the buildings. There is a lot of hotel activity, so the Rock Hall's down there, some fancy stuff going on. And so here is an opportunity for a hotel with the lobby kind of coming up under the bridge there. So that's what it could look like. And a suggestion here of saying, wanting to represent the Native American community in some art form. Could be here, it could be somewhere else, but somewhere that would really reflect the beauty of that whole history. This is what the food hall and market could look like. Taste of Cleveland is listed here, but no relationship to existing Taste of Cleveland. I think that was just a suggestion. This is what the pier could look like walking out. And what we heard a lot was an opportunity for small businesses to be able to have pop-ups or even vending space. And that's important to us because we want this space to feel like uniquely Cleveland. Specifically wanting to curate Black and brown businesses to be able to have a new audience on the lakefront. So that is not curated yet, but it is an intention of this plan. Of course, Browns fans, what it could look like after games, should people kind of want to hang around and have a family-friendly environment afterwards. So that's the overall. I think this is the last slide. I was reflecting on my way over here, kind of, why does this matter to Cleveland? Why does this matter to Glenville? Why does this matter to us collectively? And, when I think about it, I'm like, I want, if we're successful, like my personal dream is that everyone can have their family reunions here, that there's like time to just go out and take a break, get some spiritual refreshment, to connect with our waterfront, because many cultures believe water is sacred. Many of our own cultures believe water is sacred, and for too long we've kind of turned our back to our waterfront. We've also known that a lot of spaces have not been welcoming to everybody, and so can we reclaim that and change the narrative? And then finally, I think that, fundamentally, only 20% of our county has publicly accessible lakefront. The other 80% is privatized. And so, if we're going to be a resilient community, socially cohesive, all of that connected to our waterfront, we need to have that kind of access more and more. And so that's kind of my thoughts. Hope you're interested. We do have a few minutes for questions. I'm sorry that kind of went late.
We have about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. I know that there's more to the show, so.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned like the West Shore, the West Shore and the Opportunity Corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, in my opinion, being in my 60s, is what has that really done for the residents in Cleveland, just 216? What type of economic opportunity are there to improve our lives? As you know, 30% of our citizens remain in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing for our kids and our children and our people right now?
Mm-hmm.
Besides bringing other people, developers from the outside, do you have plans on minority representatives, on their contractors that are resident based? And that way, so, when you feel like we've been left out, of course we've been left out. If you look at these neighborhoods up and down and go down, we're living, we're being squeezed.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as we speak, we're being squeezed.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to help improve and lessen our stress?
Got it. So I'll comment first on the question about the contracting and the construction. So part of this process includes a community benefits working group, which is headed up by the director of Equal Opportunity, Tyson Mitchell. And the intent of this is to really go far with our contracting. And part of it is that we've established a community benefits agreement citywide that is now legal, it's in the law. And so this project, if we're successful, will require minority contractor participation. And we've had one of the co-chairs actually of the Community Benefits Working Group is Shakori Davis. Some of you may know him. He is a Black general contractor. And so, there's a lot of intention behind that. Well, with regard to poverty in Cleveland, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, if that's the right phrase. I mean, there's a lot of work going on overall. We allocated a lot of ARPA dollars, for example, to the southeast side, which is a big priority of the mayor. That includes home repair, that includes commercial corridor rehab to encourage those corridors to gain a new life. And so there's a lot of things going on in addition to this, as this is just being one portion of that. But I hear the skepticism, right? Because we've seen a lot of these major projects before, and it's always a question of, well, how does it help? I do believe if we can retain this footprint of 75% public space, that in my experience, personally, I've been able to have that refreshment being by the water. We want to extend that refreshment downtown and also on the east side. Cheers Project, for example. Yes, Miss Rita.
One question. You
Yeah.
were talking about the flooding of the lakefront.
Yeah.
That only starts from 38th going back towards Gordon Park.
That's a great point, yes.
Because the break wall or the buildings or whatever that are between downtown before you get to that area is the Coast Guard, Burke Lakefront, and after that it goes closer to where we live. So I'm just asking the question, are you going further up? Because you will not solve that problem unless you do.
Yep, that's right. Thanks, Miss Rita. So that is a great point. So the breakwater is going to protect this area from a ton of those big wave actions. We do think that because of the additional storms that we are going to get through climate change, that there is going to be a little bit of increase in that activity in this area as well. But with regard to everything east of 38th and 55th, that's part of the Cheers project, which is to build out and extend out. Right now, as you know, the I-90 just pretty much ends at the edge. And so the port, which dredges 200,000 pounds of dredge every year, is going to clean that and then begin to build out across the lakefront to protect that roadway with natural habitat, with beach, with basically, a lot of amenities there. Other questions? Yes.
This is the first time I've seen this project. When you were talking about the stairs, is there an area I didn't see where there's stages for impromptu, for small gatherings, kind of the gazebos or things that I've seen in parks around here.
So your question is about places to do a stage or
Yeah.
some festival event. So this whole area here is actually meant to be festivals and events. So you could plug in a stage here. Otherwise, it could function as a roller skating area. It could be kind of just open play.
Yeah, that area is designed for multi-use, so, like we mentioned, that hockey rink fits there, but, that, imagine the size of a hockey rink, right? So many things could fit there, and then you have those built-in seats going up those monumental stairs that kind of have that amphitheater kind of quality to it.
Right, thank you. So that's all for us now, because I know there's more to the program. But I would say if there are any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to reach out to Mordecai and Co. You know where to find us too. So we're going to keep adjusting as we hear, but we generally want to know if this is going in the right direction. So thank you.
Right on. Give it up for Director Wong and Dan Schenker.